But you know,
sorry, Chamberlain. You know, transparency is one thing you talked about, and I'm asking if we are talking about the card reader, which is part of the culture now, electoral culture now in Nigeria. Can't we take it a step further by allowing some key observers with electronic means? As soon as 1A is counted, you are allowed to broadcast 1A is counted, so that at the end of the day we all have maybe a total sum that will show us if we are somewhere. Because if you look at what happens in other parts of the world, you don't even have to wait for the electoral body for you to compute some of these things and know where it's headed.
That should have been the logical next step, because it's a process. You keep improving it. But as we speak, we're not even sure that the card readers will be used in the next election. If you look at some of the decisions in the tribunals, I think it was in the Delta election, they said card reader is not in the Electoral Act.
No, but it's always been the case.
Yeah.
Yes, they only use it for accreditation purposes.
So you can actually, if there is no political will among the leading parties and the government to improve the use of that card reader, somebody can, on the basis of the law, and we know how court decisions are made, and say, don't use card reader because it's not in the Electoral Act. And the question is there any appetite in the National Assembly to complete because the electronic voting system is a system. The card reader is one step, but then there's also the voting, the collection, the returns. We have not made that progress because of impediments. And we would have thought that, I mean, it was under the previous administration that these impediments were put in place. Now that we have an opposition party ruling at the national level, you will think the excitement will be to improve the process, but we have not seen movement in that direction.
What is it that INEC is waiting for to announce results as fast as you can and not wait overnight in the name of collation before you announce the results? Do you have to wait for the executive to give them that order?
No, not really. You know, if you look at, I keep going back to the 1993 election under Humphrey, was where it was made clear that as soon as the elections are concluded and copies, because you have duplicate copies of the election result shared, that is as good as a legal document. But now you have a situation where it's only the result announced at INEC headquarters, either at state or federal level, if it's federal, that is authentic. So that changes the whole thing. It changes the whole thing. So that is where the real battle is. And it can be tested in the court without even the legislator. If you have an elections at a polling station where all the parties are present and they have signed that this result is the authentic one and distributed, why can't it be used to tabulate and then on the basis of that challenge?
I think the question to go with that is that are we really ready to get transparent, free elections in the country? As you highlighted, if you look at it, I mean, for instance, the world is looking towards the United States in a few days now for the election, and embassies and consulates and missions across the world is open for people, a select few, to come watch on live television, and you get to see how this is done. What is wrong in people getting a system, an electronic system, where we can see them in that collation room, know what they're doing? If you say no one can announce, it seems to be shrouded in some kind of secrecy. But we should be in the light there, the way we saw Professor Jega in the last election for the presidential election, so that we know when you are going to go on recess, we see that everything is still there when you go on recess. The television can pick the table and say the table is empty, no one has gone into the dark room and alter anything. Why is it so difficult for us to do?
Again, you go back to the stakeholders involved in this process. The people are ready, the electorate cast their vote, stay till the end to show the enthusiasm. I mean, if you look at election day, whether it is raining or some people line up stretches to kilometers to cast their vote. So the electorate is ready. So the question is, these other stakeholders, are they ready? And the missing link is the political parties. The political parties are the key beneficiaries or losers in this whole process, depending on the outcome of the elections.
And their members are in the National Assembly.
And their members, So when you have those factors and interests coming together, it defeats the popular will to improve the process. But having said that, we should also recognize that we have made progress. So all we are urging the current beneficiaries of the improvement of the past that they complained about, that the ball is now in their court to take it to the next level. And the question is, are they doing it? We are more than 1 year into this administration, and there is actually no bill in the National Assembly to reform the Electoral Act. There is no movement, there's no consultation to say all these things that we've been shouting about over the past 16 years, let's improve it. And we give credit to Yaradua. After the 2007 election fiasco, he came and owned up to it, there's a problem, and set up an electoral reform committee.
But there's a Kenny Namani committee now.
There's a Kenny Namani committee set up by INEC.
By the president?
No, it was INEC that announced it. You know.
I think it was set up by the president, wasn't it?
I will have to check, but the kind of excitement, the kind of support the West Committee had, and the thoroughness of the work that they did. You know, we're talking about violence. He talks about violence being a major cause of inconclusive election. The committee recommended Electoral Offenses Commission. That has not been set up. So if I know...
That's the Waste Committee.
The Waste Committee. If I know that I can go and cause mayhem on the election and nothing happens. Look at today, one of your flashline news was that the people who killed this woman in Kanu, have worked. So why would I want to do differently if I know I can do this and get away with it? So we always blame INEC. And for lastly, I want to point out an issue.
It's not lastly, you're still around.
Sure.
Join us again then. All right, then welcome back. So could you let's go ahead and get your. You were making a point before.
Yeah, I was saying, in the previous section, it was I think it was pointedly put to Mr. Uzzi that in the history of electoral administration in Nigeria, that you have not had the number of inconclusive elections that you've had since this administration came in. I think it's also important to point out that within this 1 year of being in office, they have had to do 137 reruns arising from 680 court orders. And this is without the full complement of commissioners. There's just the chairman and 5 commissioners. And we also know the budgetary constraint that INEC is facing. So all this needs to be put in broader perspective in assessing it. INEC requires the support of...
So that looks like 2 steps backwards and 1 step forward.
I would not want to do it like this. It's like a child that was born and from first day expected to walk and run. And we know that's not how it is done. But having said that, there's also the need for INEC to step up its strategic communication. If we remember in March 2015, when the election was postponed, rumors and perspectives were running riot about what JEGA did, I think in partnership with Channels Television and support from Ford Foundation, addressed the nation in a 2 to 3 hour town hall style meeting to explain the challenges that the commission was facing at the time. That brought it a lot of respect from the populace. I think Professor Yakub needs to do the same. He needs to communicate more with the people so that we'll better understand the challenges.
We've got time for one more thing. The civil society groups, they seem to have been taken over by political parties.
I don't agree, because all the issues that we talked about today in terms of the challenges that are rising, who brought them to limelight? It's the Civil Society Election Situation Room. The Civil Society Election Situation Room, led by Clement Wankwo, when the Edo State election was
about
postponed.
The fact that they don't collate results almost immediately?
Yes, if you look at all the statements.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, the statement. But what could you do? What could they have done other than resort to the street, which is actually the demand side of the work? If you look at where civil society needs to step up, I think they have done a lot in partnering with INEC, in building INEC capacities, but the demand side of the work, that these are the things that need to be done, and using various strategies of citizen mobilization to make that point is perhaps where we need to do more.
I'd like to see what they're doing, because if they're doing it under the bushel, how are people supposed to see that? Well, we'd like to thank you for coming on this morning. Innocent Chukwuma is the Regional Director of West Africa for Ford Foundation. And that's where we'll draw the curtains today on the program as well. We thank you all for letting us be a part of your week. We'll be back next week. I'm Chamberlain Osal.
Many thanks, Sulaiman Alede.
Well, don't forget that advisory released by the FRSC, and have a lovely weekend. Maokbe Ogun.